Next is your what?
Earn the right.
Earn the right. I can't hear you. I need it from everybody.
Earn the right.
I said everybody.
Earn the right.
Thank you. Everybody. What is that? Your what? Credibility. What gives me the right to stand here and speak with you? Why am I up here and you're down there? Not that there's any distinction, but what gives me the right to be up here? Yes? So I didn't get a response there. Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. That's called what? Demand a response. Do you notice I do that every time? Yes. Every time? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Thank you. Why do I do it? To keep the energy, keep you participating, but to train, what's the word? Train. I can't hear you. Train. Train your mind, especially as we move closer to the beginning, that I will not let you off. Your mind is mine right now. I will not let your mind off the hook. Off the hook. Off the hook. Thank you. It's got to be there. And it knows it. And so it's ready. And it's listening. And it's there. Because it knows any second now it might be asked another what? Question. And another what? Question. Got it? Yeah. Got it? Yeah. Thank you. Now, I'm over-exaggerating a little bit right now. Right? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Thank you, but I want you to get this. Does it make any sense? Yes. And normally, what I'll do with a colder audience is I won't do the suggestology very heavily at the very beginning. I'll ask my enrolling questions. I'll start with the normal things. I set up the rules that I'm going to be asking a lot of questions and that kind of thing, because it's my program and we're going to do it this way. Yes? 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 Thank you. And the mind starts following into it. So at the very beginning, if the colder audience, a little piece of outtake here. Colder audience, don't go mental on this, right? Because they're going to think you're way too weird. But just start into it. You're going to let them know you're going to ask them a lot of questions. Tell them why, or they won't do it. Yes? And then start moving further and further into your suggestology, into the mannerisms that we work with. Now, if you'll notice, raise your hand if you've ever seen me with a cold crowd in an evening seminar. Okay? And have you ever seen me yell at people? Yeah, I constantly yell at people. Oh yeah, I don't yell, but I really get on them. So after about 7 or 8 minutes, or even 10 minutes, and they're not doing what I'm asking them to do, I will lay down the law real quick. And I'm not suggesting you do this, but I'm just giving you an example of what I'm at with the control. See, the person who asks the what? The questions. What's the word? Question. Has the control. Even though you're the one, what? Talking. What's the word? Talking. Constantly talking and participating, you think you have the control. But really the person asking the question has the control. So I am in what? Control. I'm in what? Control. Not in a negative way, just in control of what I'm doing here, yes? And so are you. So I will give, if I'm not getting responses, I will as is it. I'll say something like, if you've ever heard me, I'll say something like, and it's not canned, I'll just go like, hello, am I the only one here right now? Like, I came a long way, as did you, to be here, and I don't want to waste my time, and raise your hand if you don't want to waste your time. So look, this is a team effort. I don't do a solo job. When I do my work, when I do my training, it's a learning experience. A learning what? Experience. I can't hear you at all. Learning what? Experience. Let me say this to you right now. There's a saying we use in our programs that says this: how you do anything is how you do everything. Repeat that with me. How you do anything is how you do it. And the way you're participating right now says everything about you. Everything. You can say you're one way till the cows come home, but I'm not buying it. And nobody else does either. You decide how you want to play your life. You can start right now tonight. You want to play full on? Let's see it when. Now. What's the word? Now. I can't hear. What's the word? Now. Thank you. Much better. Let's go on. So it's just an example. I'm not saying you do that, but I'm just an example. No, they won't jump out of the pot now. A couple will. The losers will go. We'll go, he yelled at me. Goodbye, because you ain't seen nothing yet. You understand what I'm saying? You don't need to please everybody. But I just gave you an example that I am not going to stand for a lukewarm energy in the room. Because it brings everybody, including me what? Yeah. And we don't want that. Yes? Yeah. Okay, good. Take a nice deep breath. Say, I'm sure glad he wasn't yelling at me. Okay, where are we here? And again, I'm not doing it to incite a riot, or I'm just setting up the what? The boundary, what the parameter, the context. And sometimes you got to kick people's ass to get them to listen here, especially when you got a cold crowd. It's a whole different game, isn't it? Raise your hand if you ever talk to cold crowds. Well, it's completely different. So you set up a nice gradient, but if they're not coming through, you just give them the rationale as to why they need to. And if they understand the why, they will. And even if they're not going out loud with you, they have to respond. They have to what? Respond. Try not to. It's almost in what? Possible. Almost in what? Possible. Did you notice that? Try not to respond. Try not, say, I'm not going to respond. Say, I'm not going to respond. See, you just did it. Okay. So earning the right, that's your credibility. Why should anybody listen to you? What's your expertise? What's your experience? Do you have to be an expert? No. Raise your hand if you say yes. Raise your hand if you say no. Can you have learned from an experience? Yes. And now share that what? That experience with other and what you learned from that. Does that make any sense? Yes. Of course you can. Isn't that the way people want to learn? They don't want to learn because you read a bunch of books. I read these 19 books, so I have the right to talk to you about this now. Have you ever done it? Well, no. I'm a teacher. And a bad one, I bet. You understand what I'm saying? So come from your experience. And you don't have to be A+++. You just have to have done something and learned something from it. That's all. It might have been something negative. It could have been a big failure. You say, look, I had one of the biggest failures of my life. I lost my marriage. And I haven't got one back yet. So I'm not an expert on how to get a relationship. But I am an expert on how to lose one. And let me tell you that, so you don't have to follow in those footsteps. Anybody interested? You understand what I'm saying? So I want you to, right away with your topics and all that, and don't be thinking, I'm a complete expert. No, it can be the opposite. In fact, the best stories are always the rags to riches type stories. The best stories are the problem to solution stories. In fact, if you never had anything negative happen to you that you're talking about, no one's going to buy it from you because they can't relate to you. Understand? So, I can't hear you. Yes or no? Yes. Thank you. So, in your ETR, I want you to tell your story. Your story about how you got to be on this stage. Why are you here? What happened for you to be here? So in this, and this is the only time pretty well that my intro changes. Because it's only here as my ETR is pretty well the same thing, but why I'm doing this course or how I got to do this course and what this course means to me, that changes with each course. So what's your story? Where did you come from on this situation? If you're teaching about, thank you. Rule number 1, never speak over chatter. And people do that all the time, don't they? Not in my room. Not in my room. Because I won't speak over it. So rule number 1, tell somebody right now, never speak over chatter. Thank you. That's the difference between an amateur. That's the difference between an amateur and a professional, right there. Got it? Yes or no? Because people will always test the limits. And again, it's not like they're trying to test you. They're just, they're talking to somebody. It's no big deal. But you have to let them know it is a big deal. Because this is a time for learning. What's the word? Learning. And you're not going to say this, but I am in control here. I command what? Respect. How many people think that if someone was okay, start talking a little bit. Go ahead. So then the other thing I was going to be doing was after I started doing that, I went into the thing. Stop. Shh. Do you see the difference? How many of you have ever heard trainers and speakers actually do this? Be talking while people aren't even listening to them. True or true? In a classroom of even kids. I did 2 times I've done young kids, and I wouldn't let them get away with even looking to the side. So a kid would go like this, and I went, I'll wait. And after that, I was like, all of them were like, don't turn around. Not in a negative way, just because you want to command the respect, want to keep control. But of course the audience believes it's in control, yes or no? Person asking the questions is in control. Thank you. In Speed Wealth, I talk about how I was broke. I didn't have any money. I borrowed money for gas for my car, yada, yada, yada. I met up with this multi-millionaire friend of my father's who shared with me a secret and told me I had to learn how rich people think and how rich people do business and stuff. And I started studying that like crazy and dropped out of school to do that basically. And I put it to the test and started making millions of dollars. And here's the principles that I learned. Would you like to learn them? That's it. You're right there. Here's my EDR. But there's always a story. In marketing, your story is critical. Do you know that I used to have a very close friend, his name was Ted, down in San Diego. Ted works with a company called Guthrie Renker. Anybody ever heard of them? Yeah. They do Tony Robbins and infomercials, all those infomercials, right? Late night. Yes, sir. No, have you heard of them, Guthrie Renker? And Ted told me, he said, the number one thing we look for with infomercials is the story. The story. What's the story of this person? Where's the story? Where'd they come from? So if you got no story, it's going to be boring. Put your story. Here's what happened for me. I was, so you're teaching about, helping mothers give birth. I'm just winging it here, obviously. and how the hell did I come up with that one? That's a bad example. Anyway, So here I was. My wife and I were giving birth to my daughter, first child, and we're in the hospital and we're in the room and she's freaking out, but I'm freaking out worse. And I'll tell you what, it didn't help. And what happened, and here's what happened to her. She had to go through this and that, and I felt so useless. I felt like I was more painful to her than the baby coming out. And I vowed to myself that if I ever got the opportunity to do this again, I would do it differently. And so with the next child, everything changed. I took classes, I went to support role, I came up with some of my own systems and philosophies and processes and ways to do this. And now I teach these to other people. You understand that? Just like that. So come from where you were, and it's usually I call it a problem-solution situation. So come from a problem, come from a pain, and come to the solution, and now you're there to help people with it. Which means now you don't have to be perfect, do you? Did I say I'm the most perfect support person for mother? No, I didn't say that at all. I just said this was my experience. I was able to do this for my wife now, and now I help other people do this. How simple is this? Tell the frickin' truth. That's it. Can you all do this? Yeah. Give me a high five and say, you can do this. Okay, so what's your story there? Now, one of the things it's a little nuances. Would you like some of the intricate things? Yes? So you don't say, after here's what you're going to learn, yada, yada, yada. And then I go, so let me tell you just a little bit about myself. My name is Harv, as you know. Okay, that's a good way to start, right? No! That's a terrible way to start. The last thing you want to do is say, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Because people hate that. People, first of all, hate the word tell anything. True or true? So you ask permission. Well, now you've got a chance to meet each other, and now that you've heard a little bit of what you're going to get out of this, is it okay if I tell you just a little bit about myself? Since we're going to spend the next hour together, next day together, next 5 days together, is it okay if I tell you just a little bit about myself? Look at my hand. What are they going to do? They're going to say what? Yes. Why? Because my hand's up. Because this means yes. Usually when I do my anchoring, I go yes, no. Or usually yes, no, right, type of thing. But you'll get it. So you'll know when I want a yes. It's a very obvious thing. Yes? See? So you ask permission. It's okay if I tell you a little bit about myself. Since we're going to be talking about a very complicated subject here, is it okay if I tell you how I got involved in this? Or what my credentials might be? If I'm going to stand in front of you today, is it okay if I tell you what my credentials are in this? Well, what are you saying? Well, frickin' finally, let me hear it. Yes or no? Is anyone going to say no? No, they're all going to say yes, no problem. Okay, that's a nicer way to do it. Yes or yes? Yes. Okay, then say. Now, when they say yes, what do you say? You say thank you. Why? Because they're acknowledge them for doing the things you want them to do. How simple is this? Total simplicity, total psychology. Yes or yes? Yes. Yes or yes? Yes. Thank you. Okay. When you are in the middle of your story, I want you to ask at least one or maybe two relating questions. What's the word? Relating questions. One more time, please. Relating questions. Tell me what that is. Thank you. Questions that bring them into the stories. Questions that allow them to relate to something you've said. So, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I was so embarrassed. How many of you have ever felt embarrassed before? That's called a what kind of question? Okay. How many of you can relate to that? That's called a what? Does that make any sense to anybody? How many of you ever felt this way before? That's called a what? Relating. Those are all what? Relating. If you yak and yak and yak and yak your story, you may have people that don't even, you've never asked them if they're involved. You got to get them involved. So you ask what kind of questions? Relating. Tell somebody what kind of questions you want to ask. So here I was. I sold half my company shares to the H.J. Heinz company for $1.6 million. How many of you wouldn't mind starting with a $2,000 credit card loan and turning that into $1.5 million a couple years later? That's called what question? And he'll go, yeah, I'd like to do that, yeah. Okay, good. Can you do this? Yes. Good. So it's the way it goes is whenever you're talking about your world, it goes my world, your world. So it's my world, their world, really. Okay, my world, their world. Say that with me. My world, their world. Again. My world, their world. Again. My world, their world. That's how you do it. It's constantly my world, their world. Bring them in. Yes? Yes. Okay. You'll see it's going to flow very nicely. And this is where you'd give any results you've had before, any numbers that you've had, any percentages that you've increased, with people or whatever, number of pounds you've dropped or gained, or testimonials you've had, or any name dropping that you've been involved with, that kind of thing. So anything you can do to increase your credentiality, that's what you do. Okay. And then after that, generally, we won't go any further than that because that's usually your process. And then after that, I usually do a little bonding process. So this is a time where, turn to three people that you haven't met before and shake hands and introduce yourself. That's not in your template, and you don't have to do that, but that's the way I always break up energy. I break up what? Energy. So you can always tell the finish to my intro when people are starting to meet each other. Because now I'm going to go into my either my more agreements and rules, depending on the course, or my data pieces. Now I'm going to start to teach. Or I'm going to go into more agreements and rules, depending on the course. If certain courses take a lot higher agreement levels, like Warrior. That takes there's an agreement sheet. Yes? There's a good reason for the agreement sheet. People have to agree to that ahead of time so that they feel comfortable that they're going to play it 100%. Yes? We're not trying to scare anybody here, by the way. Is Warrior one of the most fun things a person can ever do in their life? Yeah, it's just fun. Yeah, but you get a chance to really model, when you're going to turn up the heat, what it has to look like. Yes? The more heat you're going to put on them, the more agreements and boundaries have to be put in place when? And now, at the beginning, and then you have to what? Hold them to it. Does that make sense? You let them off, the question is going to be like a teenager. You let them off one time, they go, how come last time was okay? True or true? True. Okay, thank you. Okay. Here we are. So, you might want to listen to the instructions because you know what? Talk is time to drill. I'm going to ask you right now to script. What's the word? Script. A 3-minute introduction. I want you to use your template, 6-element template on page number 4. Everything is there for you. Just fill in the blanks. Do not write this word for word. Why don't you write it word for word? Because then you'll have to read it. Do point form. What's the word? Point form. The key points, put them down there. So you might say, story of me living under a bridge. Frank came over, saved my life. Frank came over, gave me food. Met a woman of my dreams. She da-da-da. Boom, boom, boom. Just boom, boom, boom. Yes? Just point forms there. Quickies. It's going to be here's the topic I want you to use. Your topic. Now you say, well, I don't really have a topic. Choose any topic. You have a template. All we're doing here is practicing and utilizing the tools in the template. Got it? Doesn't matter what topic. We're going to be able to use 100 topics. It won't matter. But choose the topic that you believe you'd like to use. Now, if you're already teaching, you're already training, if you're training in anything that looks close to this methodology, use a completely different topic. Or dramatically enhance the intro you're already doing, for the subject you're already doing. If you're not using this technology specifically, you're more than welcome to use your specific topic that you normally do, but use it completely in our tools right now. Nobody who's never really done this kind of stuff before does it well the first time. I don't care if you've been speaking for 25 years. You're going to do yucky the first time. But would you rather do yucky here or yucky out there? Here. So get the yuck out. Get it out. You're going to do it a couple times here, and you're going to go, well, the second time was better, and the third time was better, and then you're going to get good at it. Okay. So you're going to use the full 3 minutes. How long? When you do your introduction, you're going to do the whole, I'm going to tell you when to start and when to stop. It's going to be 3 minutes. Have a decent ETR story. Your ETR, in this case, I'm going to recommend is anywhere from 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes of the 3 minutes. You go, wow, well, what else are you going to put in there? Enrolling questions for 3 minutes? What are you going to do? Your benefits for 3 minutes? No, that's what I'm saying. 1.5 to 2 minutes is your story of how you got here, your credential, that kind of thing. Yes? And that's short, by the way. Make sure in your story you have to have at least, what's the word? One relating question. At least one relating question. How many of you have also felt that way? Yes? Have you ever experienced that before? I went and I lived down in sunny San Diego. Raise your hand if you've been to California before. Those are what? Relating questions. Can you do this? All right, you're going to have 12 minutes to write this. 12 minutes to write it. Write it on your own and go. Make it good. One of the things we teach and preach is excellence. So even though it's time to get the yuck out, I want it really good from the first minute on. Make it a great. You know the tools. It's a template. They work. You're going to see how it works. It may not be perfect in it, but they work. 12 minutes, go.